Hi, our movie today begins with a woman named Lena sleeping on a bed next to a corpse. She looks exactly like her. And Lena knows that she is a person searching for life and unable to give up about it, even if it does not change the body every now and then the body dies and it will also die with it. That is why this person named Drew changes the person's body whenever rot appears on it. Because the body dies while it is present in it because it is already dead, and we see Drew cutting up Lena's body and eating it in the middle of a farm very far away, and then she returns to Lena's house and searches for drugs there. Because painkillers are what give a longer life to the body. That takes Drew, and we also know that whenever Drew enters the body, he takes everything that belongs to him, meaning his voice, his memories, and literally everything, and he becomes a copy of the second person, and we know that Lena disappeared for 3 days because of that. Her husband, James, reported her disappearance to the police, and when she did not arrive, he shouted at her because she had been missing for this long while he knew nothing about her. But Derek was surprised that all this time had passed while he was sleeping, and he was trying to stop James so that he would not inform the police because they would surely discover that the real Lena had died. So she decided to trick him so that he calls, but he tells her to stop what she is doing because he has to inform the police that she has returned. So Drew has eggs from him and tries with him again, but James is determined to call the police. So Drew sees this buzzer opener in front of him and takes it and ends up with it on James, and Drew knows that he is not happy with what he is doing, but he is forced to do it. Thus, Drew does something to James's body, just as he did to Lena's body. He cuts up the body, and in the same farm, he burns James's corpse. After he finishes cutting up the body, he cleans up the scene of his crime. Then, he delivers the policeman, Freddy, to the house and asks Drew, who is still in Lena's body, about James, because he wanted to talk to him and her. She won over him and told him that he left and still hasn't come back, and she also allowed him to enter the house, except that she invited him to coffee and he sat there so that he would know where she had been gone for the period of time she had been away. But after she returned with coffee, he noticed the appearance of mold on Lena's body, so he had to take Freddy's body. As soon as he touches Freddy's hand, he experiences strange convulsions, and Freddy's body dries up until he turns into Lena's body, and Drew takes on the form and memories of James, and then he throws jazz on Freddy's real body and falls in love with it. He goes out of the house, but he meets him at the delivery store, and I hold a request for him for James. And when he asks him for the account, he walks away, leaves it, and comes. The delivery person says that his house is getting wet, but he leaves it and walks, and at night, Drew arrives at an area known for drug dealing, and this is because he needs a drug so that the body can complete a little more than the 6 hours he is used to. He arrives at a person who sells drugs and takes a white drug from him. Takes the drug and then decides to go to the love of his life, and who will know what is the reason for his love for her. Drew goes to a cafe where Julia, the love of his life, is sitting there. He sits next to Julia and tries to get close to her, and she is a hate driver. One of them disagrees, but he tells her that he knows her well, and he notices that she comes here a lot. She asks him if she is under investigation, so he can ask her this question, but he tells her that he is away from work at the moment, and he would like to get closer to her, nothing more. And Julia actually feels comfortable with him and goes out with him outside. But when he gets close to her, he feels pain and feels that the mold has spread on his body very quickly, so he wants Julia to get away from him quickly, and this is because he does not want to kill her, because this is something he is angry and he loves her and does not want to hurt her. Julia walks away, and he goes to the car. There is a dentist named Sam who is with his secretary Sarah. Drew, who is still in Freddy's body, kicks Sarah out and enters the car with Sam and also takes his body and all his memories. Then he takes Sam's husband in the car's bag and cuts it in the garage, but he receives a message from his wife who asks him why he was late, and when he returns home, his wife does not want to talk to him because she is upset with him, and this is something between them. We will not leave her. The important thing is that Sam goes and checks on his daughter, but she has fallen asleep, and then he goes to sleep next to his wife, who is not even trying to reconcile with her, and the next morning is a girl. Sam wakes Daru up so he can have breakfast with them, and Sam's wife tells him to sit and have breakfast with them, but he refuses when he feels pain in his stomach, and he leaves the house to work at Sam's clinic, and there he meets Sarah, the girl he was with yesterday, and he also tries to cheat on his wife with her, but she rejects him and tells him that he is a drinker because he doesn't know what to say or do. Then he goes in and does his first dental case and reassures the child that it's not the first time he's been a dentist. After he finishes, he goes out to have lunch, but he sees Julia going back to her house. He goes out quickly and stops a taxi to walk after her, but the driver is not satisfied and tells him that what he will do is this is something suspicious, so Drew gets bored because he doesn't know what Julia's old address is, and then he goes to the movies to entertain himself, and people hit him because he laughs very loudly, and Drew returns to Sam's house and looks at a picture of Sam's family, and he thinks about how many members of his family there are, and no one is left, and he gets upset because he is alone and doesn't have a family. At dinner, Sam's girl does not stop talking and asking questions, and she is very angry. The one who intended to kill her, but he walked and left the house, so he was safe for her, and this is because he does not want the children or their mother. He then goes out to the bar where Julia stays up, and whom she recognizes as soon as he arrives, and she tells him that he was here yesterday with a girl, and he seemed to love her. And he asked God how she had taken care of him, so she told him that she stays up here all day, that's why she likes to keep people's secrets, and most of the people who come here, and she asks if he loves the girl who was with him, but he tells her that he did something wrong, and it was a whim, because he has a family, but he left them because it is better for them that they prefer someone else. But Julia tells him that what he did was wrong and that keeping him away from his family is not a solution at all, and this is because they need him, even if he is a monster, as he doubts himself, and she knows if she only has a family. She lost her son when he was 3 years old due to illness, and she spent a long period of time affected by him and was not able to live. But her husband, Richard, came to her on a beautiful night and told her that they should start over and forget the past, and she heard his words, but after that night, unfortunately, he disappeared forever, and he remembers Richard, and it seems that he knows who he is. Do you think that Drew did anything to him? You will know the whole truth when we continue together. Drew asks Julia for permission to walk, especially after he noticed the appearance of mold on his skin for the second time. This means that he must change his body quickly before he dies. Then he goes to a hotel and rents a room there, but he gets tired, and I notice that the mold spread on his body more, so he thought that he would go out and talk to someone outside, but there was no one, so he called Sarah and asked her to come to him, but she refused. But Sam begged her to come to him and told her that his wife had kicked him out of the house and he needed someone to talk to him, so Sarah agreed after she got to know him. She was not going to be late because of her lover, and Sarah actually arrived and knocked on the door. Wissam told her to come in, so Sarah was frankly afraid to go in, but she went in and found the light turned off. When she turned on the light, she was shocked by the sight of Sam, who had a rotten body. Then he took control of her body and sent a message from Sarah's phone to her mother to let her know that she was going outside. Drew takes Sarah's house to the same farm and spends his time there, but his neighbor smells the smell and goes and calls for him. This is because he has been missing for a while and I don't know where he is. There is also a bad smell outside his house, so Sarah hides and comes out when the neighbor is silent. But she sees her, and Sarah runs away quickly and is upset because this woman might she informs her, and Drew arrives at Sarah's house. He changes his clothes and puts on a nice dress to go meet Julia, but her lover was watching her from afar. Arrives at the bar in Sarah's body and looks for Julia, so I find her and goes and sits next to her. Girl who is with Sam gets tired and asks God if he is still in a relationship. She tells her no, and she knows that she is in a relationship with another person. Asks Drew what she does here every day, so Julia tells him about her day and says that she is a writer and loves to come and get inspiration from here, and he takes it like this, and they talk to each other and learn a few things about each other, including that Julia is a psychological therapist and solves problems. People try to pretend that it is Sarah's card so that she can visit her whenever she wants to talk. Then a young man comes and offers Sarah a drink, and he agrees to draw what is in Sarah's body and stay with him, but he leaves it and goes to the bathroom, and the mold spreads again on Sarah's body. He goes to the young man and asks, goes home together, and of course the young man does not believe it, but he takes one last look at Julia, who was sitting with someone named Robert, who seems to like her. As for Drew, he takes the young man to Sarah's house and tries to move it to his body because the neighbor reported Sarah's appearance and he will surely be expelled, but the mold has not spread so hard that he moves, and when Drew tries to knock the young man down, he hits him and also tries to assault Sarah's body, but Drew does not remain silent and continues to beat him until he bleeds, and then he takes the knife and kills the young man who tried to escape, but Drew chased him down the stairs and finished him and then came back without wearing Sarah's clothes. But the owner of the house had reached her age, the police, but Drew quickly escaped and was able to hide in a place until the morning, and this is because he knows that places that the police do not look for, and the second day in the morning, she reacts to an earth that has spread more on her body. And then she finds her lover in front of her, and the one who asks her where she was and what happened, and asks if she killed someone, because it is clear that the blood is on her. She wears it, but she denies it and tries to escape from her lover, who is running after her, and she is able to hide in a car, half of which was taken from him, but while she is in the car, she begins to feel pain and also finds the mold spreading more and more, so she turns in her forehead and takes out Julia's card that he gave her at the bar, and she remembers when Julia asked her she would visit her if she had any problems, and Droll took the address from the card and went straight to the place, and Droll arrived at Julia's place, but he watched her from afar while she was with Robert. And then Julia went out and said goodbye to Robert, but Drew was waiting and walked behind him and knew where his house was, and he made a delivery himself and was able to enter Robert's house. Of course, they know what he will do, which is that as soon as he sees him, he will take Robert's body, and not only that, he will also call Julia and find out that he likes her. Of course, after he learned that there was a marriage project between Robert and Julia, the important thing is that he asked her to meet because he wanted to say something very important to her, and she told him that she comes to the house, but he refuses because his husband, Robert, is still at home, so he sells it, so he is the one who will come to her house, and she agrees very normally, and Drew goes to her while she is playing music, and he is happy because he finally stayed with her. She asks Julia what he wanted to say to her on the phone, and he says she told her that Drew liked her very much and loved her too and wanted to continue with her, but she asked him how could he get attached to her so quickly, but she also loved him and agreed to be with him, and they would spend the night together, and Julia would be very happy, and the next day Drew would get up and prepare her breakfast, and she would be happy because she found someone who cared for her, and then he would come back Robert's house and he cuts up his body to get rid of it. He goes and throws it in the same farm because it does and smell as good. We then see Drew spending time with Julia. The two of them were very happy, especially Julia, who was no longer alone. Finally, Drew reached her and was happy, but when he saw her watching the news of the murders and the bodies they found there, the farmer tells her not to watch these things, and he was afraid that she would recognize them, but she actually recognized them and told me that the matter was very scary because she knew all these people, and she met them at the bar and also communicated with them, and that they were dying in this way. This means that there is a killer behind them, but Drew is reassured that he wouldn't let anything happen to her, and the next day they were going out and Drew was in the bathroom, but he felt so tired and Bella's body was starting to rot, so he had to change it, but he was afraid to leave Julia, who was waiting for him outside, and she was worried about him on the other hand, but he decided to tell her the truth so that when he came back in a body, the next time they can be together, he goes out and tells her that he wants to talk to her about a very important topic, and when she hears those two words, she becomes very worried, but he sits down and tells her that he wants her to listen to him until the end, and he tells her his story, and that when he was 12 years old, he killed his mother and felt guilty. But she tells him that he's just a child, and these words have been around for a long time, so he doesn't have to feel guilty. But he is shocked and tells her that this happened in the year 54, meaning a very long time ago. She tells him that this is not reasonable because he is younger than the one he is saying all this about, but he makes her understand that he took his mother and she doesn't do it in the normal way, so she becomes a mustache, but he starts explaining to her that he has power, but he calls it a curse, which is that as soon as he touches someone, he takes over his body at a certain time. This is the way he moves from one body to the other, and Julia does not believe what he says, but he proves to her that it moves to bodies, and this is the same way it moved to her husband's body, so he loves her because he felt Richard's love for her, and the last night she spent with her husband was him with her, so it becomes because he killed her husband, and she also tries to kill him, and he tries to guide her, but he can't because he was afraid. He touches her body because he is going to kill her, but unfortunately he holds her hand against him and takes revenge on her body, and Julia dies, which is basically the reason that kept him alive until now, so he sells Drew for her death and pets you because the matter is not in his hands, so he goes to the bar and thanks the server for taking care of Julia at the time she was upset, and because Julia's memories are transferred to him, so he feels everything she was experiencing, and then Drew decides that he will stop moving into bodies and die, and he will remain in the body until it decomposes, and he thinks that he will die. But he wakes up, and in himself he is reborn in a strange way in his appearance, body, and real age, and he does not know what he is, what happens to him or her, and he or she continues in life, not knowing what she is hiding for him, and the movie ends, and we do not know what this will be, nor does he himself know what he or she was, and thus the events of our film today end. I hope you have fun with us. Don't forget, if you liked the video, support us with a like and a subscribe, and also activate the bell to receive all new updates.